All right, good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning here in China, and I decided to do a live stream. I'm back from my trip. Hold on, let me just make sure my audio is working. If you can hear me here, you know, I think that's okay. Well, there we go. That might be a little bit better. All right. Yeah. Let me know if you guys can hear me out there. Just give me a yes or no. I'm trying my new mic here. So, anyways, I'm back from my trip, and I went all over Guangxi. Really, I did a long road trip. Um, by the way, I'm fine. you know, we can talk about anything you want. We can talk about the coronavirus. We could talk about English teaching. We can talk about traveling. Anything you want. But I wanted to make this live stream because there's so much BS out there with regards to this virus and a lot of misunderstanding about what is actually going on here on the ground in China. And I think it's, for the most part, very hyperbolic. I mean, everyone's saying some very strange things. I've seen it firsthand. I've traveled around. I'm not just watching this happen from my apartment. I'm actually in the car. I'm hiking around. I'm walking around the towns and the cities, and I see, the reality of the situation, which is much different than what the media, the news, and other pundits who are also feeding off of this media stream would have you believe. So let me first, if you can hear me, go ahead and uh, and give me a shout out. Okay, so the first thing I did was a couple days ago. I think it was Saturday night. I was originally going to leave Sunday morning, but we decided to leave Saturday night just to get a head start. We were on our way to Yangshuo. Yangshuo is in Guilin County in Guangxi. It's about a 7-hour drive from my home here in Zhongshan. And I didn't want to do the whole drive in one day. So we left early and we stayed the night in Zhaoqing. And Zhaoqing is a smaller little city uh, west of Guangzhou. It's a nice little city. It's not big, but they have beautiful uh, scenery there, including the Seven Stars Lake, Seven Stars Crag, which I've been to, but I haven't done a video. I've been to Zhaoqing a few times, and I still haven't done a really good video there. I did one last year when I was there about uh, the fail. It was just raining the whole time, so I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go any hiking or anything. So we stayed the night in a very nice hotel, and then the next morning we took off. Now the morning we had trouble finding breakfast because nothing was open, and because of this coronavirus scare. And in Zhaoqing at the time, they had zero infectious people. They had no reports of anybody sick in that city. And the only places that were open were McDonald's, which I'm trying to avoid because I'm on a diet, and the other place was Starbucks, which I'm also trying to avoid. But I do. We ended up going to Starbucks and getting a hot tea and some yogurt, and we took off on the road. Now, on the drive out there was almost nobody on the highway. It was almost completely empty. I'm talking the high speed expressways here. In the rest stops that we stopped at, use the restroom, get some gas, there was hardly anyone there either. It was empty. The restaurants were closed. There was no place to buy food. There was a little market, like a little convenience store where you can buy some, instant noodles and stuff, but no place to buy any really hot food. Then we arrived in Yangshuo, and the original hotel I had booked was called the Li River Resort. So not a big hotel, but a very nice one, right on the river, about 2 kilometers north of the town of Yangshuo. Off this, it's in a park, and it's off this like really, really windy, road that follows the river. It's very picturesque. And we pulled up, and the gates were closed, which was strange for me. So there was a young lady there who was doing some cleaning around the gate, and she saw us, and then she quickly ran away. She was scared, oh my God, and ran into the hotel. So we called the hotel and said, "Hey, we're here. I have a reservation. You have my my money. You know, are you going to let us in? And the first question they asked was, where are you from? Where are you coming from? We said, we're from Guangdong, Zhongshan. Okay. No, no, no. We're closed. We're closed. All the hotels in Yangshuo are closed. You cannot stay here. That was the response that we got. And so they immediately refunded all my money via WeChat. They just sent in WeChat right as we were on the phone. Here's your money back. Get away. Go away. It was really kind of heartbreaking. So we went back into the town, and the town is completely empty. You know, this is a Sunday. It is the day um, about the day after New Year's Day, basically. Hold on a second. Completely empty Yangshuo. I've never seen it like that. Not in videos, not in person. It was a ghost town. And we were walking through the town looking for lunch. We are just going to buy some, have a late lunch and then look for another hotel to stay in. And the restaurants, as we walked through the town, were literally closing up shop as we walked through the town. We said, hey, what's going on? They said, oh, all the Yangshuo is closed, because of the coronavirus. There was no virus in the town. There were no reports of anything in the town. It's just they were scared. So they closed up all the restaurants, and the kitchen staff literally had buckets of fish that they were carrying out to the lake and the river and dumping the fish back in the river because they weren't going to use it, and they all were going home. And a few shops were mostly like little tiny gift shops were open, but for the most part, it was dead. The only place that was open was, again, McDonald's and Starbucks. And we don't want to do McDonald's, so we tried Starbucks again, which was fine. I mean, it's reliable. So we ate a lot of Starbucks on this trip, that's for sure. Not because we wanted to, but because there were very few options available to us. We walked around the town looking for a hotel, just kind of saying what would be nice. And I'd say half the hotels in Yangshuo were shuttered. They were closed up, locked up. The other hotels that were open were offering 80% discounts on very nice rooms, but there were no people. It was completely empty, and you can tell that they did not want to service anybody. The staff there, the front desk, the bellman, you walk in and they just avoided you, and they did everything they can to try to keep you from renting a room from them. It felt like. And finally, we found a hotel called the Changfang Green River Resort. I think that's what it was called. And they were actually very sweet, very kind, very helpful. And we got a room. We tried to go out for dinner. There was no dinner to eat. So that was unfortunate. The next day, we wanted to drive into the countryside and see some of the sights. And we had a great feeling that a lot of the tourist attractions would be closed. And a lot of them were. In fact, all of them were. I mean, you drive down the street, very few people on the road. And, you cannot take a bamboo raft on the river. Even, it was probably too cold to do it anyways, but the caves were all closed. All the tourist attractions were closed. All the restaurants are closed. And in fact, all the country road turnoffs that you would have, to turn off into down a country road and see some of the sights and everything, were being blocked by the local villagers. They literally had cut down trees to block the road, and they had these giant 2.5 dump trucks and a couple other cars out there blocking the road. And a bunch of guys, I'm assuming they're the local villagers, all sitting around smoking cigarettes, playing cards around a campfire. Many of them had big knives, and that was another thing. And they were literally blocking people from driving down the main road, driving down the side roads into the little villages. So there's an awful lot of fear there. So we decided to try to drive up to Xingping and to Husband Mountain, and we did that, and it was also blocked off by all the local. Every time we tried to go a different direction, we came across a roadblock. we drive down a little country road trying to get to the Xingping Wharf, and we drive for maybe 30 minutes, and then you'd have a roadblock, and we turn around and come back, and there'd be another roadblock, and so it was very difficult to navigate because the local villagers didn't want anyone from the outside going anywhere near them, and so we went back to Yangshuo, and we're a little disappointed, honestly. I mean, we enjoyed the drive through the beautiful countryside and seeing some of the sights, but um, it was the trip was quite marred by all of this. That night, there was one restaurant open in Yangshuo, which was an Indian restaurant, which we ate at, and that's where all the expats were, the people who live in Yangshuo. A lot of the backpackers who were in town kind of got caught in this thing. There's a big rock climbing community in Yangshuo. They were all there, so everyone was there, and we were all enjoying a nice Indian food dinner. Now we had planned another day. We also did a little walk through some of the parks and climbed up to a pagoda in Yangshuo, but there was nothing to do. It was really quite boring and upsetting. So we decided to start headed back home, but we're going to break it up into 2 days, and we pulled off the side of the highway in an ancient town called Huangyao, which is also in Guangxi. It's a beautiful, ancient, preserved ancient town, similar to Fenghuang, but much, much smaller scale. It's got the same type of architecture and a similar history. Uh, it was as we pulled off the highway, the police stopped us, and a nurse came over and took our temperature, and the policeman said that the Huangyao is closed, that they're not letting anyone in. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Well, we have a hotel reservation, so they let us go. We pulled into the town, and there's nobody there except for the locals walking around, doing their thing. And we walked. The security guard at the gates of the ancient town said, it's closed, can't come in. I said, well, we're staying here tonight. We have a hotel reservation. And they said, oh, okay, then there's a special entrance for you around the corner. So I had to go around the corner and then walk into the ancient town, which was closed up. I mean, the only people in the ancient town were the actual residents who lived there. Those are the families who own the restaurants and the families that own the shops and the little guest houses and their children. And they were having a ball. I mean, there were no tourists there. We were literally the only tourists there walking around. We stayed in a great hotel. I did a video about it. It's a 300-year-old building that has been modernized and converted into a modern hotel. And that's a common sight you are starting to see in some of these ancient villages, even though the exteriors of the buildings are very old and preserved and have that kind of feeling. If you go in the interior, they have modern fixtures and modern furniture, and they're actually quite comfortable. So walking around, it was there were no restaurant. We found one little restaurant that was open, but most of the people eating there were the locals. They allowed us to eat there. They were very kind. It was a little pricey, but we're happy to contribute to the local economy and the family-owned business. It was quite an interesting experience to see what is normally a very busy tourist attraction, especially during the Spring Festival time, completely empty. And parts of the town it felt like I was on a movie set, an abandoned movie set. At night, the locals came out and had a party. The children were out playing with fireworks and firecrackers, and the adults were, playing cards and drinking a lot. They were drinking a lot and having a grand time, just enjoying their town with nobody else out there. It was actually, we couldn't sleep at night because it was too much partying going on, and and then we came home. Now here in Zhongshan, it's business as usual. It seems. The Spring Festival is starting to come to close. People are starting to come home. As we saw on the highway, the traffic had started to increase a little bit. So people are coming home. And when you get off the highway, they check your temperature and they ask you where you've been, and let you go. Because we hadn't eaten very good food in a long, long time, the first place we had to go was get some food. So we went to Lihe Plaza, which is in the center of town. It's probably one of the most common places I visit for shopping and eating and movies, things like that. And we went up to the fifth floor where all the restaurants are. And I'd say about half the restaurants were closed. The other half were open, but there were no customers. I mean, it was dinner time. And I've got video of the staff members literally sleeping, the cooks and the chefs and the waitresses, and they're literally sleeping because they have nothing else to do. And we walked into a very popular restaurant, which would normally be completely packed and people waiting outside, to find absolutely nobody in there. And they actually looked happy to see us, to be honest. And they sat us down and we ordered a ton of food. And they actually brought us more food. They said, "Thank you for coming in. We appreciate your business." And they brought us more food for free. And in here in Guangdong, you're supposed to wear masks everywhere you go, and that's fine. I have a mask, and you'll see in my videos I'm not wearing a mask. That doesn't mean I don't have one. It just means while I'm videoing, while I'm uh, shooting myself, I take the mask off because no one wants to see me in a mask. But I do have my mask and I wear it in public, mostly because it provides a little bit of social stability, I guess. If you're not wearing a mask, you're kind of publicly shamed a little bit. People look at you. The police will say, "Hey, put on a mask." So I wear the mask. It's fine. But if you always got, here's a couple of tips. They do this anyways when you're in China. It's a lot of foreigners will get sick when they first come to China, because there's a lot of germs out here that our bodies haven't become immune to and stuff. So when you do, just wash your hands. That's the big thing. And if you're touching things, pushing a button on the elevator or touching touch screens at McDonald's or something, don't use your fingers, use your knuckle, and that way, and, especially children, when children want to come up and, shake your hand and give you a hug, just say no and give them a little fist bump. They actually like that, a fist bump, and then go wash your hands later. And of course, I wear gloves too. So that's it. It was an interesting trip, and the next couple of videos that I'll be sharing, I'm staying home today and just editing because I've been gone for about a week. Hey, dude, good to see you. Yeah, they actually did make it illegal now. You have to wear a mask. In certain different cities have different laws regarding this. In Zhongshan, it's not made mandatory to wear a mask when you're out in public. But if you want to go public places like restaurants, malls, and movie theaters, then the local security will ask you to wear a mask or they will let you in. And that's kind of the rule here now. When you're out walking the street and everything, most people out walking the street are not wearing a mask. If you're in a public place, a mall, park, anything like this, everyone is wearing a mask, and that's what they're doing. I don't see them enforcing that law too much here. Is there a food? Oh, how long do you think this will last? I think it'll last a few more weeks. It's the government has really done a great job with clamping down on it. Now, a lot of arguments over, oh, they were slow to respond and everything. But what they're doing now, they're doing everything they can, basically, to stop the spread of it. And it's very evident. You see it everywhere. The communication between the local authorities and the businesses and the people has been extraordinary. And the people have responded quite well to it. In my little town here, everyone's wearing their masks. People are still going out and enjoying it, but most people are staying home and spending time with their families and getting a lot of sleep. It's going to continue to get worse before it gets better. But I did a video about last week about how everyone needs to calm down with this, and I stand by that. People still need to calm down. It's not the end of the world. This is not a world-ending plague. When you put it in perspective of even the common flu, because it is flu season here in it's winter, this is just another thing that we need to be concerned about. But I maintain the fact that you're more likely to die from food poisoning than you are from this. I mean, and even if you get it, it's not a death sentence. I mean, most people will just have a little sniffle for a week or so and then go home. What's making it worse is the panic and people spreading rumors and panic. Oh my God, this is so bad. So when people do get a sniffle and they go to the hospital, you see video of the hospitals completely overwhelmed with people. That's not because people are sick with the coronavirus. That's just because they're scared. They do get a sniffle and they want to know if they have it or not. So the hospitals are completely overwhelmed when the vast majority of people just have your common cold. Is there a food shortage? I don't think so. I went to the market last night, and I went to a couple markets here. There is less food on the shelves than there usually is, but that's always the case this time of year around Spring Festival, because people are shopping for food for their big dinners and their lunches. I mean, it's literally lunch party, dinner party, and because the restaurants are closed or nobody wants to go to the restaurants, everyone's having these parties at home. So there's a lot more people buying food for that reason, and not because they're hoarding food or that there's a disruption in the food delivery. It's normal for this time of year. John, the numbers will begin to change as people start coming back. I agree. I think they're going to continue to climb. Um, this is still kind of in the beginning stages, but I don't think it will be the end of the world. It'll probably, I said it. I don't think it would be as big as SARS. It looks like it will be bigger than SARS, but even SARS on a macro scale was small potatoes. I mean, it really is mostly just fear mongering out there, and that's my opinion. Again, I'm not taking this for granted. I do think it is a serious issue, and people are dealing with it in the best way that they can. But it's not the end of the world, and people shouldn't be quick to discourage a normal lifestyle. You wear a mask when you go out, but going to a restaurant is fine. Going to the market is fine. Going to the park with your family is fine. Just take the normal, proper precautions, and you'll be fine. I think it'll affect the local economy long term as China as a whole. Absolutely. I made this comment yesterday, and that's something that I'm sure I'm sure that the people here are aware of. Uh, the local economy is getting hurt big time. I mean, the couple days around Spring Festival are always dead as far as the economy. Everything shuts down because everyone's with their families. It's like Christmas Day times 10. And then after that, they have a couple of days to a week where people are starting to travel. They're going out. They're spending time with their families in tourist areas. That is not happening. The tourist areas, as I can attest to, I was just in Yangshuo, are completely dead. There's nothing going on, and everything is shuttered. And it's a combination of the fear factor. Businesses don't want sick people in their businesses, but also the fact of a lack of demand. There's no demand for these services. Gift shops, uh, again, restaurants, which is a huge part of the economy here, of course. Anything having to do with a tourist-related kind of, motorbike rentals and things like this, they're dead. They're gone. And they just announced that the factories won't open until I can't remember the date now. Here in Guangdong, the factories they extended the Spring Festival to February 2nd, which is nice. They're basically saying everyone stay home for an extra couple days just to be sure. I'm fine with that. But the factories won't reopen. Here in Zhongshan, I live in a factory neighborhood, and the factories are all closed, and they're going to continue to be closed for, I think it's another 10 days. It's maybe 2 weeks. And of course, the schools won't be opening up until the end of February. So because the businesses are closed, there's no revenue coming in. So it's going to be interesting to see those who have a who have a difficult cash flow position. Maybe they don't have the correct credit limits to make payroll this month, or if payroll will even be processed this month because nobody is reopening their doors. So a lot of small businesses, I believe, are going to go under as a reason for this. Many family-owned restaurants, many new enterprises that just opened up and are just struggling to get off the ground, they're going to close, and it's because they don't have the revenue stream. Any info from your employer as to when to start class again? Yes. It's not necessarily from the employer. It's from, I think it's from Guangdong, the Guangdong government. They said that February 14th, I think it was the date when, or February 15th is the date when teachers should uh, be ready to show up back at work. And that goes for public schools and private training institutions. I believe that was the case. Everything's been closed. I'm fine with this, especially if your school or training center has a lot of children. As we know, children are a little less hygienic than adults on in general, and so they don't want the spreading of germs that way. So I totally understand why the schools are staying closed or delay in the start of the semester. Here at the college, it's going to be the end of February before the students are allowed back. I'm here on the college. It's just me and security. I'm probably in the safest place possible, to be honest. I mean, the college campus is huge. It's up on a hill. I'm in the center of it, surrounded by this park-like beautiful setting with birds chirping. The sun is out, and outside the gates there are no motorbikes or cars or anything because the factories are all closed down. I'm pretty isolated here in China unless I drive into the center of town, like I do almost every day. I go to the market, I go to restaurants, I meet friends. So it hasn't changed my lifestyle per se. I just have to wear a mask now when I go out. Um, see, would you advise people to cancel flights to China? That is a personal decision. I would say no. I think that you're more you're you have a bigger chance of catching the flu from someone sneezing from America coming to China, than you do of catching the coronavirus while you're here. A lot of people are worried about this. They say, oh, many of the airlines are canceling flights. Well, a lot of that has to do with the lack of demand because people are scared to come. So it's really not profitable for them to keep the flights going. So again, this is going to cause huge hits to the economy. And I'm sorry I really hate to say that, but it's very obvious when you walk around the town and when you see things like this. If you're coming to China, you remember to uh, just take extra precautions like you would in any country you fly to. Always wash your hands, have the alcohol hand sterilizer stuff. You have to wear a mask everywhere you go, and just be careful. Don't kiss strangers, and don't share food in a public restaurant. And when you touch elevator buttons and touch screens and door handles and everything, try to use the back of your hand, not the front of your hand. And carry tissue. I mean, everyone says, "Oh, there's no soap and paper towels in Chinese bathrooms," and that's not the case. Many restrooms are getting better and better every year here, and many restaurants and restrooms and malls and everything do have soap and tissue and things for you to use. But I have a bag, a satchel that I carry around my reading glasses and my important information, and in that I have some bathroom tissue and some soap that and every expat here knows you have to carry around tissue with you everywhere you go. Then now you use that when you open a door to the bathroom or something. So just taking a little extra precautions is fine. And you would do this anyways in the winter here in China or even in America, because you don't want to get the flu. I heard some landlords are giving some sort of discount for people because of the situation. I haven't heard that. I don't know what kind of discount they would give because of the situation. Can you, Derek? Could you be more specific on what you heard? That's an interesting rumor. Do you get much information on virus cases outside of China? Yes, all the time. They're just not reported on. Again, I think the media has jumped on this bandwagon to talk about this. It's the new juicy thing. 2 weeks ago, everyone was talking about the Australian fires, which is still going on, by the way. I mean, we have American firefighters that are dying in Australia right now fighting these fires, but nobody talks about it. In fact, someone's mentioned, oh, did you know the fires are still? I'm like, there's fires still going on because everyone's talking about this and other things. If you go to the CDC, the American CDC website, you'll see just they've dispatched experts over what 700 times in the last 2 years to fight various outbreaks throughout the world. I mean, outbreaks are very common. They're just not talked about. You might see a blip on it one day. Oh, there was an outbreak of plague in this one small village, and that's the last you'll hear of it. But this has jumped on the bandwagon. And a lot of the reason why you see the response from the Chinese government as strong as it is number one, they want to nip it in the bud. They want to get rid of it. They don't want it here. But number two, they also know that the eyes of the world are watching them. And they learned a lot of lessons from the SARS outbreak. And so they're trying to apply those lessons learned. And they're really doing their best to control the spread of it. Let's see. Good morning. Shout out Idol. Avid fan from the Philippines. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I love the Philippines. I was going to go back there this spring festival, but I elected to stay in China instead. I really would like to go see the northern part of the Philippines. Not necessarily Manila, but go north from Manila and to around that island a little bit. Many people go to the Philippines and they go to the different islands in the center and but not many people go see the north, and that's something I'd like to do. Carry alcohol sanitizer. Yeah, sure. I carry the alcohol sanitizer everywhere I go, and I put it on a lot. But again, I wash my hands a lot. Every opportunity you have a chance to wash your hands, you wash your hands. I don't like being sick anyways. I can only imagine the real effect that this is having on the economy. I was coming there in April, but my family urged me to cancel. Yeah, there's again the fear, not just here in China, but around the world of this China virus. I have a friend of mine who had a message from his sister, and he sent it to me today. It was very eye-opening. He said something about it's getting a bit crazy here. They have run out of masks. This is in Australia. Everyone was buying them when the bush smoke was bad. Now every chemist and general practitioner and health professional is being issued with one. When you drive through Eastwood now, we used to play Spot the Aussie, but it's a bit hard now as everyone is wearing a mask. So everyone's wearing masks in Australia, where in the entire country there are 6 people with it. It's ridiculous. Here's another one that I got. Why we panic about coronavirus but not the flu. If you're freaking out, this is from I don't know the source, but it just puts things into perspective. If you're freaking about coronavirus but you didn't get a flu shot, you've got it backwards. I mean, yes, in America, a lot of people don't get the flu shot and the flu vaccination, and you should, because flu is more dangerous. The big picture, the novel outbreak will always command more attention than the common illness, and the coronavirus is a serious health threat. But our newfound hypervigilance about infections might be more helpful if we could redirect some of it towards influenza, a significantly deadlier virus that strikes every year. This new strain of the coronavirus has killed over 100 people so far, and all of them in China. More than 6,000 total cases have been reported worldwide, although experts believe that total is underestimated. I agree. It's probably more than that. By comparison, this year's flu season has killed 8,200 people with at least 15 million cases, and that's just in the United States. So they've got all this hoopla going around about coronavirus because it's new and relatively unknown, and it's the juicy news topic for this news cycle. Yet no one's talking about the 15 million people who are infected with flu and the 8,200 people that have been killed just in the United States. Between the lines, James Lawyer, an infectious disease physician at the University of Nebraska, said pandemic viruses like the coronavirus cause more anxiety because, unlike the flu, there are not any initial countermeasures like vaccines, antivirals, diagnostic testings, and monitoring systems. That's true. Those things exist for the flu, yet vaccination rates are still low. The flu is just not as new and headline grabbing because we see it every year. That's from Emily Martin, an epidemiologist at the University of Michigan. The bottom line, the coronavirus has upended the lives of many Chinese citizens and it warrants a strong public health response. And that's what's happening. You're seeing a strong public health response here. It's just important to remember that if you're concerned about viruses, a lot of those deaths every year are preventable. When we think about the relative danger of the new coronavirus and influenza, coronavirus will be a blip on the horizon in comparison, says William Schaffner, a professor of preventive medicine at Vanderbilt University. So that article really puts a lot of it into perspective. I mean, I like to make this analogy. Back home in Southern California, I lived in a small town in South Orange County called Dana Point. I lived there for a couple of years. And while I was there, I was learning how to surf. And surfing is big in Southern Orange County. And it's something I always wanted to try and do. So for a couple of years, I lived on the beach and I had a surfboard and I would try to go surfing out, at Trestles and Doheny State Beach, very popular surfing areas. And I've also been a scuba diver my whole life out in Southern California, thanks mostly to my father, who was a photographer, and then my one of my sisters also worked on a shark dive boat in Mexico. So I've swam with great white sharks out of Mexico. And I also have a good knowledge of the marine biology in Southern California and all the fish that are swimming around. And in that part of Southern California, Trestles and San Onofre and Doheny State Beach is a great white shark breeding ground. So there are great white sharks everywhere. You don't see them, but they're there underneath your surfboard, and everyone knows it, but that they surf. And it's very rare that a surfer gets bitten by a great white shark, even though they are everywhere. It's the same thing going here. We know that the virus is there. We know that it's, I know right at the hospital down the street, there is somebody who has this virus. But am I scared? No, because the chances of me getting it are very small. And so that's kind of another analogy I like to make about it. So yes, it's important to stay vigilant and keep yourself healthy and clean, eat good foods, and have a good, strong immune system to help fight off the superbug when it comes. But that's not what this is. All right, let's go back to the comments here. Here we are. Okay. I lost a teacher that was coming to work at my new center. I'm sorry to hear this. That's the one in the New South China Mall, right? And I'm concerned about how much I've attached myself financially to opening it. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. If you have a new venture that opened up right before Spring Festival, it was probably the worst possible time to open it up, because you're not going to get the revenue stream that you need to sustain a business in the first year. As you all know, that it's very difficult. I have a teacher friend who went back to America for a couple of months and was scheduled to come back here in a couple of weeks to work again. And she's having second thoughts about coming. And it's all due to this fear. Two basic human emotions, love and fear. And, unfortunately, they're very primal things, and fear is taken over in a lot of people. Let's see. We have a person next city over flew in from Wuhan. He is not confirmed, waiting on test. Okay, well, my hopes and prayers for him. Wuhan is the epicenter. They've really shut down that town and all of Hubei, and it is probably the worst city in China for this to happen. Because everyone knows Hubei and Wuhan in particular. Outside of China, most people have never even heard of Wuhan yet. It's got a population bigger than that in New York, but it's in the center of China, in the center of a very populous region, and it's kind of a hub. It's a transportation hub. not just for airlines, but for buses and trains and high-speed trains. So if you're going from south to north, so you're going from Guangzhou to Beijing, you go through Wuhan. If you're going from Chongqing to Shanghai, you go through Wuhan. That's what I went through Wuhan when I was traveling. This was 2 years ago, traveling from Chongqing to Shanghai. Yeah, I hope he does. I hope he's okay. Let's see. Oh, by the way, if you are from Hubei, you are ostracized and everywhere you go. We have a few cars here in Zhongshan that I've seen with the Hubei license plate, and people are reporting these cars to the police, saying this person's from Hubei. They shouldn't be here. Get them out. If you are, when you get off the highway and you have a Hubei license plate, you are immediately taken off to the side to be tested and questioned further. Okay. I saw it on WeChat. Probably not reliable source, but figured I'd ask you about it. Yeah, WeChat is not a reliable source. Your friends groups are learning rumors from this person and that. But even the one I just read to you about my friend's sister in Australia, maybe that's an example of a rumor that you, excuse me, a rumor that you hear that I cannot individually verify. And so you really have to take everything you see on social media with a grain of salt, especially a lot of these grainy videos, these cell phone videos that are coming out of supposedly Hubei, showing quote unquote dead bodies, what, in the hallways of these hospitals. There's no way to verify that. There's no way of knowing that that was taken this year, last year, if it was one little section, and then they try to explain that that's happening in every hospital in China. Whereas it might be just one little corner where they've got two people who are having a nap, because they're waiting to see the doctor, as opposed to sick and dying in a corner. That's an example of how the media and how people in general, especially on social media, like to create an atmosphere of fear when it's unfounded in most cases. You should be concerned, you should take your precautions, but don't be so fearful that you're afraid to leave the house, as many people are. And I'm not just talking here in China. There are people who have fear in Canada, in the Chinatowns throughout the world. They won't go to the Chinatowns and eat in Chinese restaurants because they are afraid of this China virus. And that's a very unfortunate thing to hear. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's see, I'm not sure this is clear. The flu is more deadly. What is that based on? 170 dead, 133 recovered. Seems a lot worse than the flu. Well, no, it's not. It's a tick above the flu as far as the mortality rate goes. The flu has a 2.5%. It's slightly less than 3% mortality rate, and the coronavirus currently has slightly more than 3%. If last time I calculated it, the numbers change all the time, but it's right around there. But because there's still a lot of people who are infected and their outcomes hasn't been processed yet, and besides, most of the people who have died had underlying illnesses to go along with it, to complicate things. So it's not worse than the flu. It's just less known than the flu. The flu is far worse than the coronavirus at this stage. I mean, it could change. Let's pray, everyone, to stop the virus. Prayer is our one weapon to fight this virus. Well, I'm not a religious person. If prayer helps you, then by all means, please do that. You can find other professional in field that see it differently. We really don't know. Yes, that is true. There are professionals on both sides of this. Some say that it's a serious health risk, and I think most health professionals say that this is a serious health risk. But they, at the same time, listen, they are also trying to keep the perspective in line. They're answering direct questions from the media. And I know many health professionals who are hacks, to be honest. That's fine. How is the situation in Zhongshan? We are flying from South Africa to Zhongshan in February. Welcome. Currently, this morning, I looked at the number. It said they had 12 people in Zhongshan who have been infected. and one person in my little area of Zhongshan. And just because that one person is say, and by the way, all these people, uh, I think 11. This could be wrong. Remember, I'm just reading what I read this morning, telling you what I read this morning. 11 people had visited Wuhan, Hubei, Wuhan specifically, and then the 12th person is the daughter of one of those people, which is fortunate. So again, uh, you'll be safe. Zhongshan is a very safe city, and I don't see any cause for concern. When you come here, you will be subjected to extra checks, medical checks. When you go places, people will be taking your temperature everywhere you go. You have to wear a mask. Remember to wash your hands. Don't touch things with your fingers. Use your knuckles. And continue to wash your hands. And then stay healthy. Eat healthy foods. Drink healthy foods. Don't get drunk and don't smoke cigarettes. And exercise regularly. Have a good, healthy body so that you can warn off the superbug when it comes. Keep up the blogs, Rojo. Really enjoy them. Thank you. I appreciate it. I got a lot more coming out. In the next week, I've got my trip to Yangshuo and Huangyao, which I'll be sharing with you. But I also got a couple other ones that I'm working on here. A lot of you have been, just to switch gears real quick, a lot of you have been asking me about restaurants in Zhongshan, where to eat. So I've, over the last 2 months or so, I love going out to eat, and I eat a lot of nice restaurants and a lot of try to stay away from the dodgy restaurants because it's trying to lose weight. So every place I've been going, I've been introducing and been filming a lot. So I've got this video that I've made about all the different restaurants and all the different amazing foods that are here in Zhongshan. It's not comprehensive because Zhongshan is so big. Again, it's over 3.5 million people live in this city, and geographically, it's huge. So I'll be releasing that as well. Also, I've been doing something called the Zhongshan Hamburger Hunt. I love hamburgers. I can't eat them as much anymore because I'm on a diet. So my new diet that I started 6 months ago, I don't know if you've noticed, I've lost 10 kilos in the last 6 months through exercise and diet. And my diet has basically been more fruit and less hamburgers. That's it. I used to go to eat hamburgers a lot, 3, 4 times a week. And now I'm down to twice per month. So I can have a hamburger every other Saturday night. That's my treat for myself. But I go to a different burger joint and I'm trying to find the best hamburger in Zhongshan. And many of the restaurant owners are friends of mine. And so they're all trying to vie for the top spot. I promise I'll be objective as possible. I'm currently filming one, Why I Stay in China. It's a very personal vlog that I'll be doing. I've got plans as the company and the factory open up to do some of my partnership with the travel bags company that I've got here in Zhongshan that you've seen. If you haven't seen, I've been doing a lot of work with a travel company that makes travel accessories here. Mostly, marketing type stuff. I helped produce their marketing video for their new garment bag. Did some voiceover work for them, and I'm continuing to do some work with them. It's a lot of fun. I helped design the bag and everything. It's a great time. More hikes I'll be doing, going back to Jinzhong Reservoir. I'm doing another video on China shopping. A couple of years ago, I did one just walking around my little town and how difficult it was to find clothes for me. I mean, I'm not a big guy, especially shoes, but that has changed. And as with the advent of, Taobao and everything, shopping in China is a much different experience now than it was even 4 years ago. More hotels they'll be staying at. The museums of Zhongshan, the museums of Guangzhou. Is teaching in China risky for foreigners? Another personal topic I'll be talking about soon. And another one, a few things you should know before you come to China. That's a very common one. A lot of bloggers do that one. The hardest thing about living abroad, another personal one that I'll be doing. And updating my movies. I used to do a lot of movie reviews and going to the movie theater. I still go a lot, but even going to the movies here in the last 4 years, the experience has changed quite a bit. Oh, and I'll be doing one on my new gym. So that's and also the Zhongshan architecture building. So those are some videos that I'm currently working on. Let's go back to the comments. Okay. And greed. Maybe. Sorry about wording. Should check next time. No problem. I agreed too. He is a college student from Wuhan and lives in college town, so hope comes back negative. I hope so too. Universities, colleges, factory dormitories are where I think you're going to see a lot of sterilization, a lot of monitoring when the new school term starts. Because here at my college, most of my students are from Guangdong. They're from all over Guangdong. Every town in Guangdong that you can think of, I have a student from there, and they're their hometowns. But I also have students from Sichuan. I have students from Hunan, and as far north as Hubei. So let's see. Do you know anyone or some else that knows someone sick? No, personally, I don't know anyone who is sick. Uh, in my circle of friends in the expat community here in Zhongshan, I haven't heard of any personal stories of anyone being sick. Again, here in Zhongshan, as of this morning, only about 12 people have been confirmed, and that's in a city of over 3.5 million. So, again, it's remarkably low and a remarkably low risk. I agree. You can't trust videos. My first thought when I saw some of the videos where people falling over was that the city of 11 million, there's a good chance someone was just totally drunk and fell over. Yeah. I mean, again, if you see someone lying on the ground here in China, that doesn't mean that they're sick or unconscious. It could be that they're just taking their lunchtime siesta. uh, Harry, I just went to Yangshuo 2 days ago. Very good. So did I. So you were probably there when I was there. You saw how completely dead it was. A little chilly, right? But Harry, what was your experience in Yangshuo? Because we drove all over trying to find things to do, and were turned around at every stop. It was really kind of annoying, to be honest. But we still enjoyed our drive through the countryside. Rojo, quick question. In terms of teaching in China, Guangdong or Zhongshan, degree plus TEFL and no experience, what salary should be expected in RMB if you're teaching English? I'm not going to answer that. Send me a message, private message. Salaries are something that you can research yourself online. The salaries are increasing for all of these. You have a degree, TEFL, and no experience, you'll probably get the lower end. It also depends on where you're going to be teaching. So there's a huge range. It depends on what type of school you'll be working in. Are you going to be in a kindergarten? You're going to be at a training center for adults. You're going to be at a public school. Are you going to teach privately? Are you going to be in a private company? Are you going to teach for the government? So many different questions and so many different price ranges. And also depends on how many hours you're going to be teaching. What country you're coming from is another big thing. So send me a private message. I'll do my best to help you out. I'm not going to put any numbers on that. That's up to you to decide how much you are worth. What salary should you expect when you do have experience? Again, salaries are negotiated. The demand is high. So if you feel you're being undercut as far as your salary goes, then ask for more. And chances are you'll get it because the demand is so high. The common rule is to not accept the first offer. Although the first offer, it also depends on what school it is. If it's a reputable school, the first offer will be on the low end of the scale, but you can usually get a little bit more. And because now they have this fear, many teachers are canceling, and we just heard that many teachers are canceling their plans to come here and teach in the next term. The demand will be even higher. So keep that in mind, and you might be able to get a little bit more money out of it. Let's see. Also, are there soccer clubs in Zhongshan? Oh, you asked this, I remember. Soccer clubs in Zhongshan where we can go for trials and play for a club. Sorry for asking a lot of questions. Don't be sorry, man. That's what I'm here for. Yes, I had a Russian friend of mine who was part of a soccer club here. I don't know how to get in touch with it. Soccer is not a giant sport in China. I mean, but it is here. I mean, if you have different sports hobbies, I mean, even baseball is here. You can find the appropriate club and enjoy. There are gyms everywhere for you to join. As far as soccer clubs go, if you look for it, you'll find it. It's there somewhere. In your opinion, will the virus influence ESL industry? Absolutely, no doubt. As far as the private ESL industry, the private kindergartens and training centers, this will definitely affect it. It'll affect the teachers. I mean, teachers get sick all the time, anyways, because kids are walking germ centers. You know, they're just they touch everything and they're not very clean. So that's why you have all everything from kindergarten up to high school teachers who are constantly sick. So teachers are very aware of hygiene and how important it is to keep yourself clean and not get too close to children and stuff like this because they don't want to get sick. I do see sick people coming to class. I saw it before the Spring Festival, and that always bothered me. And I always give this announcement: say, hey, if you're sick, don't come to class. Stay home, get well. And that's. But there was always a culture here, especially amongst the adults. If you are feeling ill or sick, you would wear a mask. I mean, even before this coronavirus outbreak, you would see people wearing masks all the time. And that just means that they themselves have a little sniffle and they don't want to get everyone else sick. It was part of the culture. You never see that in the West. You never see people in the States when they have a cold wearing a mask, but it is part of the everyday culture here, even before this. As far as ESL, yes, you'll probably see a reluctance to find new students in the ESL. The ESL industry relies heavily on new enrollment and continued enrollment in classes. You'll probably see a drop off in that. And after the Spring Festival is usually a very busy time for the ESL industry. You get a lot of new students who are rich with Huangyao money and they want to take English classes, or they're doing last ditch efforts to gear up for the Zhongkao or the Gaokao exams. So they're taking last minute English classes to bolster their scores. You're going to see a big drop in that. And it's a lot of the mom and pop ESL shops that don't have a reliable revenue stream or have a reliable credit line to make payroll and pay their bills. You're going to see a lot of them go under. It's a hit or miss. It's like restaurants. You see them pop up and then they go out. They pop up and they go out. It's only the major players that really there are some mom and pop shops out there that have a couple shops here and there that are very successful, but I'd say about half of them don't last. Trying to teach a brand, you could probably talk to that guy and he would give you a better understanding of the ESL industry and how this is going to affect it. I'm just a teacher in a college, and I have many friends who work in the training centers and kindergartens and stuff. But as far as talking with the business owners, trying to teach your brand would probably be a better source for that type of information. Hi, recently discovered your channel. Keep up the good work. Your rational attitude is refreshing. Thank you, Mas. I appreciate it. I will continue just to be myself and show you what I see. My channel is not a China channel. It's not a travel channel. It's a vlog. It's a personal vlog about me and my life and where I live. I just happen to live in China and where I go. Let's see. Yeah, fire is still here in NSW, Australia. Oh, North. I don't know what NSW is. I'm sorry, Moss. Could you? Australia, mask comment about Eastwood is unfounded. I'm a paramedic. Thank you very much. Okay, so again, I know that many comments that come from other people are very hyperbolic and probably exaggerated in many ways. So thank you for setting that straight. Do you know many non-native speakers teaching English in China at university level? No, I don't know a single one. The If you're at a university level or work for the public or work for the government in any way, you cannot be a non-native English speaker. This is just the case. The reason is private companies can get away with having a non-native speaker illegally teach in their center and get away with it because they're not being monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think. So it's all under the table. At the university level, though, it's because it's government. The government has to have all their paperwork in line, 100% and perfect. And if they show that you are from a non-native English-speaking country, there are some exceptions to this, and it's been a long time since I've researched it because the rules do change. It was something about if you had an English degree from a native English country, and you had those degrees authenticated and notarized in those countries, then you would be allowed to come and teach English at the university level or for the government here. I don't know if that's still the case. It was something along those lines. But I personally don't know any non-native English teachers other than the local Chinese teachers who also teach English. Okay. Almost all the entertainment programs in Yangshuo were closed. When I went to a hotel and public transportation, staffs would check my temperature and purchasing records to see if I had been to Wuhan. Oh, they checked your purchasing records, like your Alipay and your WeChat Pay. No, they didn't do that to me. I didn't do any public transportation, but yeah, everything was closed. The hotels were closed. The restaurants were closed. It didn't. They had all the decorations for Spring Festival up, but it definitely lacked that Spring Festival feel, that joyous, feeling that everywhere that you have during this time. I mean, I'm not Chinese, but even I feel it when I'm, here in China during the Spring Festival, and it just seems so sad and somber, and it just did not have that holiday spirit. And it wasn't just in Yangshuo; it was everywhere. It's here in my city too, and that's one of the saddest things about it is that it happened during this time. All right. I am seeing many apps to learn Chinese. What are your recommended apps or books to use to learn Chinese? Very good. There's audio programs. YouTube has many, many videos that you can watch. I struggle sitting down and watching a YouTube video to learn a language. Making Chinese friends will definitely help you, especially with your pronunciation. But even the pronunciation of my Mandarin here in Zhongshan is different than that of the one in, say, northern China. So I have an audio MP3 that I play in my car, and it's teaching me like a Beijing accent. For example, to say like a little, I speak a little, so you say a little. In Zhongshan, I would say 一点点, but in Beijing they say EDR, so it's much different. So having your Chinese friends help you with pronunciation and colloquials will very much help you. So apps, programs, they're going to pick one version of Mandarin, and there's going to be variations everywhere you go. I mean, remember, 普通话 it means common language, but it's really Chinese is really a collection of languages, and there are differences, not just from region to region and province to province, but from town to town. I mean, just the next town up in the same city, but the next town up is got a slightly different dialect. So just going here, I'll show you I have my language apps here. So I have my dictionary, my English dictionary, of course. I have this one here. It's called Pleco. That's an offline. You can see that Pleco. That's an offline Chinese dictionary that also has pronunciation, and I go use that a lot. It's very fast. to find a specific word. Also, this one here, this one is Chinese skill. It's kind of made for children, but that's fine. Children's books, if you're just starting to learn Chinese, children's books will be a great source for you because they have very elementary vocabulary and elementary, word phrases. This Chinese skill one has been really good when I'm on the bus. I play with it a little bit. I've learned a lot from that. It also has a writing and reading element to it as opposed to just oral Chinese. And you can use Google Translate, but I actually like to use Baidu Translate because if I'm going someplace and someone's trying to talk to me in Chinese and they're speaking very fast and they're telling me, I say, wait, 1 second. And I say, hey, 用中文. And then they speak into the Baidu and it just translates and then I can translate it back. I also can just ask Siri. If you have an iPhone, you can ask Siri, hey Siri, how do you say I need some face masks in Chinese?
In Mandarin Chinese, I need some face masks is 我需要一些面罩.
So you can see I use Siri a lot for this. But unfortunately, it doesn't translate Chinese into English. Siri doesn't. It only translates English into Chinese. Also, WeChat has a feature. If you go into your WeChat and you use the scan tool, okay, so you're going to scan QR codes and everything. Right here, down at the bottom, you can click on Translate, and it'll scan a menu or a sign, and it will translate it. Not very well. It's pretty poor translation, but you'll get a gist of what the menu is. It'll translate it into English for you. It'll also translate English into Chinese. So it's another great feature using tools on your phone to help you communicate. So even if you have zero Chinese ability, you can still go about your life. It's just a little steps you need to do and little tools that you have to help. But also learning Chinese, putting a direct effort into learning Chinese. I've really stepped up my effort in the last year or so to learn conversational Chinese, and it really has made a difference in my life. Let's see. Thanks for your answers. I am a non-native teacher working at a university in Yunnan province. I guess there are exceptions, and it depends on the province and how badly they want to employ. That is true. They will make exceptions. It also depends on, because Chinese government is very everyone has the essential Chinese government in Beijing, but then all the provinces and municipalities have their own governments, and some are very foreigner friendly and some are kind of not, and some follow all the rules and some kind of skirt the rules, so that could be an element to it. And local demand, of course, if you're in a third tier city or something like that that doesn't have a lot of foreigners, but there's a huge demand for it, then they are willing to skirt the rules in order to meet that demand. So that does happen. So you're the first person I know of that is a non-native teacher working at a university level. So congrats. I think that's great. Thank you so much. Have a good and safe day. Thank you very much. I will. WeChat, it depends. If it is downloaded in China, it will work full stream. If it is downloaded on App Store in Western countries, some features may not work. Interesting. I didn't know that. I could see that as being the truth. Okay. My iPhone I bought in China. It's a Chinese iPhone, but my iTunes account is the United States, and so I have access to all the apps that I think anyone else would, especially if you use a VPN. Do you give your WeChat to your students? Do you interact with your students after class? No, I don't. I do not interact with my students in any way. I isolate myself from my students outside of class. So if I'm in class or if I'm walking around the campus going to and from class, they want to talk to me, by all means, I'll talk to them. If they want to talk to me after class, that's great. But I don't go for beers with them. I don't have dapaidang with them. I don't play basketball with them. There's a line it's a professional line that I have imposed on myself between myself and the students. I do not give, every day they always ask me for my WeChat. I don't give them my WeChat unless they are a VIP student, then I would give them my WeChat. And by VIP, I mean a private student. But here on the college campus, no. If I give one, then I have to give it to all of them, and I like to maintain some sense of privacy in my everyday life. So most of the people who do have my WeChat are my prior students from the training center, my personal students, my VIP, private students, and then my circle of friends. And I have business owners and things like this that I meet that uh, that again, I've lived in Zhongshan for 4 years now, so I have many friends here. I still had a lot of fun in Yangshuo because there weren't really crowded at the time. You could take a lot of pictures in anywhere because you were the only few. That's true. We got a lot of photos of us on the river with the mountains behind us. We didn't go to any temples or anything, but we had a great time in that sense that it was quiet and peaceful. And if there was going to be a safe place to be, I think Yangshuo was it because there was really nobody there. But after 2 days, we got bored because we couldn't drive down any of the countryside roads, and because all the actual tourist spots were closed to the public, there was nothing left to do. And we got tired of eating at Starbucks. There were a couple of restaurants that were open, but we like to eat healthy and clean foods, and so we didn't go to any of the local noodle shops or anything. Do foreigners have social credit scores? If so, has it affected your life positive or negative? That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think I have a social credit score. I might. I haven't seen anything about foreigners participating in the social credit system here. I haven't heard anything about any other of my friends having it, and no one has told me anything about it. It's not part of my life here. Okay. Oh, all great questions, guys. Have my tea. All right, any last minute questions? And I'm going to get off. I've been streaming for an hour, and it's time for me to start my day because I'm going to go to the park and go for a run. Because now most of the public parks here are still closed. So I can't go to the public city park and go for a run, but I can go for a run in the mountains, which is what I like to do anyways. So I'm going to go do that. One more question. As I am only a foreigner living on campus, I had a difficulty with lots of attention that I get. I guess I just need to get used to it. Yes, you will get a lot of attention because you are the foreigner, and that's from everybody. That's part of living in China, especially if you live in Shanghai or Guangzhou or Shenzhen. You don't get as much attention because people are used to seeing foreigners. If you're at a university campus with a lot of young people walking around, many of these young people are not from the big cities, and many of them have never even seen a foreigner, or they have little or any, if any, interaction with foreigners. And so you do get a lot of attention, and people watch you and they stare at you and they talk about you, on the side. It's part of life in China. And yes, you do get used to it. Okay. Any last minute questions, guys? Because it's time for me to go. Again, be on the lookout. I'm finishing a couple of videos on my road trip, and look forward to seeing all of that. Thank you for the questions. Again, it's not the end of the world. The coronavirus will get bigger before it gets smaller, but keep it in perspective. Stay safe. It's not the end of the world. Don't be fearful to live your life. That's all I have to say. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.